Yep, here we go. See, Instagram is always last. Always like delayed freaking Instagram. So we're live on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube. I used to do
Perfect.
Kick, but I kind of gave up on it. I don't know. There's like just children on Kick, I feel like. Nobody's really watching it.
I gave up on TikTok and YouTube because they kept banning all the things I'd say.
Oh, they did. I have not gotten banned on YouTube yet, which I am very shocked about, actually. I mean, considering that I really have no limitations on my live streams, I haven't gotten a single like ban. And I'm like, what? Of all the things, like they didn't give a shit. Okay,
Well,
so we're
I think I got myself on a list back during COVID. So
yeah, I mean, I assume I did too, but who knows? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we're live everywhere now. I think it's Facts with Maaxx, episode 38, and I've been missing a little, and I'm sorry about that, but I have been in a very important sovereign rabbit hole, and a little bit pregnant also.
a
Which
little bit pregnant.
just a little, which haven't really affected my time, but I'm very excited to do the episode. We did your podcast the other day, so I'm going to share that as well. And I've had you on before, not on my live stream though. We've gone live, but I don't think I've had you on the actual live stream.
I
Right?
think this is the first time.
Yeah. So this is nice, a little nicer than before. So everybody, this is Dr. Chalmers, whom is a good friend. He's become a good friend, but it all started with me having some issues, and then he helped me with a pretty damn good detox and allergy reset back in the days. And I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. And I have very cool
All
followers.
right.
You can say anything. They believe in everything.
Well, that's
Oh, the sound disappeared for a second.
did it.
Oh,
Is it
no,
back?
now you're back. Now you're back.
So I'm Dr. Chalmers. Let's see all the things I've done. I did a TED Talk. I wrote a best-selling book. I've worked with patients for over 20 years. I like to fix dementia and diabetes. We do lots and lots of detoxification work, lots of recovery work for athletes. We do diets and hormone work and peptide work for athletes, and so we do a lot of that. But there's just a whole lot of things people have been lied to about as far as healthcare goes and how the body actually
Mm,
works. And it's kind of hilarious because basically everything that people think how the body works, from calories to cholesterol to all that stuff,
mhm.
is wrong. It's
Yeah.
yeah, interesting time.
But so you're a doctor and you have a lot of certifications and degrees and stuff. I know. What did you actually study? Because you never were
So
a doctor, right?
no, so I have a specialty in neurology, a specialty in sports medicine, a specialty in Eastern medicine, muscle testing.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically all the stuff that I've been studying is just physiologies. How's the body actually work?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get things to actually work? Reading the research and that type of stuff. So that's always been where I've been. I've never been one of those guys who just goes with the status quo. It's like, hey, this isn't working. Why are we not trying to fix it? Find the way that does work. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, one of the first things, first I guess accolades I got after all my degrees and certifications was, I talked to you about this a little bit, and there's lots of little things I just kind of forget. I worked with one of the medical pediatricians in the area after her breast cancer, and we rebuilt her body. And so she wrote a book, "How the Chiropractor Saved My Life," about what we did with her and how we kind of turned her around from being a medical doctor to be a functional medicine doctor. And now she's now one of the top functional medicine docs in the state. So lots of little fun things we've been able to walk through and do that's a little outside the normal.
Okay, let me ask. So is it this book?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
perfect.
it.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, guys, well, I'm gonna put everything we talk about. I put it in the link. I want to read this actually because you have told me the story now, and I said, what? I didn't even know that. This is amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, so she did that one, and then I think it was just other fun stuff I've done. About a couple months later, I developed a supplement that completely blocks hangovers while I was working on fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Was
one was
it
fun. And then
a mistake?
do what?
Was it on purpose for that, or was it kind of like a mistake?
No, it was for fibromyalgia. So fibromyalgia is more of a liver issue, liver detox issue, and we were, and I was turning fibromyalgia around all the time, and so I developed the supplement for the liver. And
Mhm.
then one of my patients called me, and they were like, "Hey, man, this supplement you made, it's amazing. Like, it completely blocks hangovers." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, got hammered last night. Woke up this morning totally fine." And
Huh.
so we started
Kind
testing it, and it's
of for another. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, hey,
I mean,
yeah,
it
it definitely cleans
makes
the liver.
because it affects the liver, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
If anybody understands the body, yeah, it would totally make sense. And so, did you say you studied energy healing, or sorry, sorry, muscle testing, muscle testing?
Well, yeah, both. Yeah, so we do a lot of energy healing and
Mm-hmm.
muscle testing. Muscle testing is probably my favorite thing. It's how we figured out how to fix COVID, because we were testing different vasodilators, and quinine was the one that worked the best. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we do a lot of the stuff we do. We use a lot of blood work for what's in the blood, but it doesn't necessarily matter what's in the blood. It matters what's in the tissues. And so, muscle testing really helps to figure out what's in the tissues, from parasitic infections to bacterial infections,
Mm-hmm.
viral infections, all sorts of stuff.
Can you explain just very briefly if somebody doesn't know what muscle testing is? Because I don't think everybody does. Like,
Okay.
what?
So it's based on frequency work and harmonic resonance and quantum vibrations. But
Mm-hmm.
what ends up happening is that think of it this way: your body works as one big unit, and think of it like a symphony.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got violins, and you got cellos, and you got all the different things, right? They all make their own sound, but together they make one big sound. Well, you can actually isolate each individual organ with in different acupuncture meridian points, and then in those points, your body will literally go weak. The musculature just doesn't have the ability to contract very well when you're focused on some of these points. And so, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, we use the hand, and so what ends up happening, if I can find where the camera is the hand will open up, and you can't hold it together at
That's
specific points.
that's the one I do. You did on me, I think.
Yeah, and then if you add in a nutrient into the electromagnetic field, it will
Mm-hmm.
harmonize the field, making that point go strong again. So that's how we can tell not only which organs are weak,
Mm-hmm.
but which nutrients bring them back to resonant field, and how much of that nutrient we would need for the day. And
It's
so
weird.
it's like I said, it's been wildly beneficial.
Mm-hmm. I am all about it. I think the first time I came to you, I think you did that on me the first time because
Mhm,
I don't think I didn't necessarily know that's what you were doing. And then when I came there, because I already knew what it was, and I've tried it, kind of at home with friends and stuff. So I like the very basic version you would do by yourself. And then when you
mhm.
did that, like, oh wow, I'm all in. This is great. He knows what he's doing.
Well, the fun thing is that you can do it two kind of couple different ways.
Hmm.
One is like what I prefer to do is I don't want any information from the patient. Like, don't tell me anything, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's going on with you.
Hmm.
And so when you go through, because it's such a really good way of getting information so quickly, I can be like, you're waking up between 2 and 4 in the morning. You walk into rooms and forget why you go in there. You have loose stools. You have lots of gas. You have
Hmm.
fatigue. Like, I can go through and kind of figure out what's going on. Like, you have high anxiety. Like, we can go through and figure these things out from the body, and it's always hilarious because I've had people start crying. This is one of my favorite stories. I had this little old lady start crying, and
Hmm.
I was kind of like, sorry. And she was like, no, I already feel better. She was, everywhere else I've been, they told me I was crazy. And she
Hmm.
was like, I come in here, you test me, you tell me exactly what's wrong with me without me having to say anything to you. She's like, I finally feel like someone's listening. She's like, I finally feel like somebody is actually finding what's wrong with me.
I think
And it's funny
also
because, like,
probably made her feel worse for the fact that people keep telling you you're crazy. Of course, that's going to make you even worse.
well, and so a lot of times in medicine, if they don't have a drug for you,
Hmm.
then they don't know what to do. And this is one of the reasons why they don't have good testing for parasites. And so they're like,
Yeah.
parasites aren't a thing. And then you fix me these parasites, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so much better. Like, I would say about 90 something percent of the population has some type of parasitic infection. Whether
Mhm.
or not it's catastrophic and damaging your body significantly, I can't tell you that. But every single time we work on type 2 diabetes or dementia, the
Mhm.
first thing we start with, or depression, the first
Mhm.
thing we start with is cleaning out the parasites and doing what we call a kill and refill. So kill the
Yeah.
parasites, kill the yeast overgrowth, kill the viruses, bacteria, reset the gut, and then
Mhm.
everything rebuilds from there.
I think a lot of people are either they don't even know about this stuff or they do, and then they almost think that if you have parasites, like you're this crazy sick person or you're doing something really bad. But I also, I after I came to you and I got you a coffee enema, I just used to do them every now and then because why not? You just want to maintain. And then people say, "Oh, you have parasites because you eat meat." Well, if you don't eat meat, you have them too. Like it's coming from everywhere. It doesn't matter. You just need to make sure you maintain and detox. And detoxing gets, people talk more and more about it, but it's not talked about enough, and people don't understand. And the same way you talk about actually doing the detox. Somebody asked me the other day, we're talking about health, and they say, "Oh, so I want to use these molecules you use. So am I gonna like detox, or am I just gonna heal?" And I said, "Well, to heal, you get a detox. Like there's no other, because you're not well right now, meaning there's something inside of you that isn't supposed to be there, and that has to come out, right? It's got to come out somehow. So yeah, you will likely feel some sort of detox, which is a very good sign. It just means, it's working."
Yeah, and it's funny because people always one of the things I always make sure I explain to people is that there are no supplements or drugs or techniques that will detox your body. That's not how it works. The way it works is that we feed the body the chemicals it was designed to have. We call them nutrients. And
Mm-hmm.
the body does what it was designed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it purges and breaks down molecules and moves them out. So,
Mm-hmm.
what you're actually doing is you're feeding the detox organs the chemicals they require, the nutrients they require to do the job they were designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really where this comes in. So, it's when you're trying to look at getting the body healthy, it's remove the things that are keeping health from being where it's supposed to be and give the body the nutrients it's supposed to have to do the job it was designed to do, and then all of a sudden you get healthy. So that's really kind of where it is. And I don't know why we spend so much time jacking around and doing other things outside of the fact that disease management is wildly more profitable than disease eradication. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had well, you get to the point where you just stop trying to help people. But I had somebody today I've been trying to help for so long, and they actually started doing a good thing. And then I heard it, "Oh, yeah, so, I spent the arm and a leg on, all this stuff." And I said, "An arm and a leg on what?" "Yes, the surgery." I said, "Why did you have surgery? You didn't need any surgery." "No, no, but I needed surgery. The doctor said I needed surgery." Of course they're going to tell you that. Like, no, you didn't need surgery. If your arm is over there, yeah, we can talk about it,
yeah,
but besides that, very likely you're not. And if I believed in the medical system, I would have had a surgery everywhere in my entire body, my knees,
yeah.
my everything. I had one surgery. I broke the arm. It was literally standing out that way. So I'm sure some sort of intervention was needed to put it back there. But besides that, all the other parts, yeah, they said I probably need a knee surgery and shoulder surgery. No, I don't, and now my knees are bulletproof.
Well, and the big thing is that, if we had access to the things that actually worked, if we had access to better peptides, access to the stem cells, access to the things that, really do help heal, we would need a whole lot less surgery. So, and I'm not opposed to, like, I think, as far as Western medicine goes,
Mm-hmm.
the ER, the emergency stuff is amazing. They do miraculous things, and the surgery is pretty cool. Like they can do some pretty neat things. I think that surgery is a little maybe overused a bit.
Yeah. I mean,
But
and emergencies, yeah. But that's really what it should be for. And they just suggested left and right for no reason. Antibiotics and surgery, fix everything, right?
yes, yeah, yeah. Well, it's always funny because people go, "Well, I'll do this and I'll do that, and if it doesn't work, I'll just get surgery and that'll fix it." And I'm like, "That's not how
You'll
surgery works."
go through the recovery process regardless. So it's like, do you want to do it without the surgery or want to do it with the surgery? You're going to have to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's funny because and a lot of times surgery, with other stuff is really, really beneficial. So, like, whenever I have a patient who is going to go in for surgery that they know they have to have, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I blew my ACL completely apart, and I got to go do
Mm.
X, Y, Z. Cool. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, make sure you get on testosterone about a little bit beforehand, and then do the growth hormone peptides throughout, and it'll radically increase your healing time and allow you to functionally get back where you need to be. It's why we don't use these things on a regular basis. I don't know, but man, like we've been able to fix so much crazy stuff with growth hormone peptides and testosterone and just the
I'm
chemicals the body was
curious.
designed to have to heal.
I would be curious to see a side by side two people, one person using what you're saying and the other one using only Acemannan. I bet it's the same time because that's so
That'd be interesting.
very hush hush. But we work with a very big hospital, and we can't say it, but they give their patients the Acemannan. I can tell you off the screen, which
All
is
right. Yeah. Yeah. I want, yeah. When you get done, I got to know.
like we'll probably get sued. But yeah, so they use it on their patients basically. And they also
Very,
use
very
it
cool.
together with chemotherapy for the ones who decide to do that. You know, they actually have come to the point. This is huge. So we work with a very big cancer doctor, and they have now become they are okay to ask the patient if they want to skip chemo. That's huge. Like it is a step
That
forward.
is big.
Yes, they can still decide it to do it, and then they take it with it, meaning that the chemo isn't going to destroy their immune system as bad. It's still going to be bad. Can't get away from that, but it's not going to be as bad. So, you know, it's getting there slowly but surely.
Well, I think if we just gave people more rights, like they just here in Texas, they're doing this big THC ban thing, and the thing that irritates me
Yeah.
about it is they're coming out and they're telling everybody that cannabis is super dangerous, but we've already established the safety bar or the safety threshold, which is cigarettes and alcohol, and
And
so you
on
can't.
cannabis, if they're bad, is probably if they use pesticides, and that's on your freaking salad too. So,
Yeah, and so it's right now the government's been really bad about taking all the things away that work. We're having to take people to Mexico and stuff to give them ibogaine and psilocybin to break their PTSD and their addictions because addictions are worth a bunch here in the States, and so they don't want those things
oh
fixed.
yeah. Actually, I want to. So I have we're gonna talk some about pregnancy stuff here. Actually, gonna read a text that I received from somebody that I'm not gonna reveal who it is yet, but it's somebody I know who's gonna have a baby, right? Who's decided to kind of go the same route as me, all natural, probably a home birth, all the things. But either way, this person has had a lot of health issues in the past, so she still has a doctor. So she was gonna show up for one last checkup, basically, with her doctor, just to, check the blood work and see everything is fine, do her little freaking ultrasound or whatever, and then kind of like tell them that, okay, I've decided I'm gonna give birth at home. So then she sends me this. Wait, now I gotta find it. First of all, I also want to point out that this person had repeated miscarriages with IVF, and now none. Oh, okay. Damn it! Was it this long ago? Oh, here. Okay, so she goes to the doctor, right? And so the first thing they do is they contact the insurance company to get a breakdown for the cost. Everything, what is it going to cost for all the checkups, for the birth, like all the stuff, right? So then she lays out this cost to her, and they say that she has to decide on visit number 2. And on visit number 2, she has to pay the initial cost or whatever, like something, like a down payment, basically. And she has to decide right now. So she arrives on her second appointment and tell them, hey, I have decided I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to have a midwife and do it all at home. So then apparently this doctor lose their mind, literally lose their shit, and say that, okay, well, here's the thing. So if you want help today, you're going to have to pay a full price for the visit today, like for the whole birthing breakdown price for only today's visit. And then basically say they don't even want to help her if she's not going to give birth there, like fuck her, basically.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, I'm just going to leave then. Like, she's like, what? Like, she's like, they actually got mad at her. And I was like, yeah, welcome to the medical system. I mean, I don't know
Well,
you would expect, because she would think, okay, you made that choice. Wonderful, beautiful of you. Of course, we'll do your blood panel today and you can pay for that one, Like, why wouldn't you do that?
it's just, and a lot of this stuff is set up entirely for that. It's the same reason that pediatricians get angry when you don't want to vaccinate your kids. It's not because they care about your kids. It's because if they don't get 90% of their patient population vaccinated, they don't get their giant kickbacks at the
Oh,
end of the year from insurance companies for keeping everybody vaccinated. So it's not about your health. It's
Mm.
about the way that they're making money off of you. And so it's,
Yeah.
oh, if you're not going to pay for the whole program, then just get out now.
Yeah.
All right.
Price list the other day. I don't know if that's accurate, but it said something between like $200 to $400 per fully vaccinated patient or something that they get
Yeah.
bonus.
Yeah. There, and some of those things, and that's just on your roster. It doesn't have to be the people who got vaccines that year. So, like, what will end up happening is, like, I've seen some of the pediatricians in my area be getting between 150 and 250,000 per provider. And so, if you have an office with 4 or 5 docs in it, now you're looking at a
Yeah.
million bucks.
Uh huh.
So,
Yeah. That's like, yeah. I don't know what to say. Well,
and
everything is
where
like
we're at
running.
with that, where we're
Sorry.
at with that really quick
Mm-hmm.
is, so everybody by now, and like
Mm-hmm.
this shouldn't be political anymore, but everybody by now should know a couple of things about the COVID vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
One, they should know that it doesn't help prevent COVID. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't help stop the spread. And two,
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely dangerous, especially to pregnant women. Like, massive reports, massive research on, stillbirths and
Have you
and
seen
and
a COVID baby?
miscarriages and stuff.
Have you
Yeah.
have you
The
met in real person like a COVID baby? I did, and
I have not.
did not know what I was looking at. It was so. I'm not like a baby expert in any shape or form, and this is like a few years ago. So either way, I show up to a friend's baby shower, and my friend is just pointing out. She's like, "There's going to be a couple there, and I just want you to know that they are for everything." So just like if they say something, just yeah, they might. But they even said we didn't talk to them for years. We kind of got in an argument, but just let's leave it out. Either way, they show up. So this woman is like holding her baby, right? And then she was going to the kitchen or something, so she put the baby down on the couch right next to me. So I turn over because the baby's kind of crying, and I was like, maybe I should pick the baby up, like. And I look, and I was like, is that what they're supposed to look like? Because I was like, how is this baby like smaller than my hand? Like it does. I was like, oh, maybe it's just newborn. But I was like, not even a newborn would be that small, I would think. It was just like, yeah, like this. It was crazy.
Hmm.
And I'm looking, and then I asked my friend later. She's like, no. Did you see the other baby that was there? I was like, yeah. She's like, that baby's younger. What? I said, that baby was 5 times the size. Yeah. And they're still not understanding. So I guess they had like 4 boosters each or something. The mom got super sick. The dad got super sick. Baby almost didn't make it. And they still don't believe it was the vaccine that did it.
Well, what's funny about that is that Health and Human Services got
Mm-hmm.
sued by the vaccine makers because RFK no longer mandated the COVID vaccine for babies and
Mm-hmm.
pregnant women. Not that they couldn't have it or they shouldn't have it, just that they don't have to have it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: in order for those pediatricians to have gotten that kickback that they base their literally base their business on, if they lost that, their business would have to shut down. So that mandate, they would have had to vaccinate every single baby and every single kid with the COVID vaccine that we know is causing myocarditis. We know is causing all sorts of brain issues, all
Mm.
sorts of cancer issues, all sorts of sudden adult death syndrome, all these things, and does zero positive. And yet RFK got sued because the pediatricians were not going to be forced to give that vaccine in order to get their
I mean,
kickback. So it's, we're in a really, really, really bad place right now as far as, apparently the medical system trying to kill everybody.
yeah, I actually did. So I lost 1 Instagram account and 2 TikToks. And it was a combination between COVID warnings and just natural health stuff. But I did serve now, being in this whole sovereign law stuff. I've served TikTok and Meta both, and I actually sat down and gathered and printed every single public study about all the side effects of what the vaccine does. And I don't know what they're gonna do, but it was like, hey. A lot of people are now, getting paid for losing their jobs and all this stuff. I'm like, you literally wiped me and all of my following for saying something where I actually was right the whole time because I didn't make anything up. It wasn't like I was sitting there and trying to break down the science of it. I was simply just saying that it's not good for you. It will cause damage. Don't take it.
Well, so like 4 months in, 5 months in, when I figured out how to treat it, we were pulling people out of hospitals to save them, and I was like, man, I bet people would want to know using quinine and hyperbaric oxygen has
Mhm.
reversed this all the way from like death to fine in 20 minutes. it's a, you got to do it several times to get them all the way there. But I was like, people should want to know this. So I posted it. And
Uh,
not only did it kill my social at the time, but apparently, and I was talking to a buddy of mine, Google had my old URL listed as
mm,
medical misinformation. So it not only
yeah, you told me.
killed my social, but it also killed my organic and my actual business listing on Google. So
Maybe I should help
they're very
letters. We can do that actually. Send it to Google and stuff. We've done some stuff here. I personally did TikTok and Meta, but we're working on like Google and like we can, because if we have some sort of, as long as you have some sort of evidence that what you said actually had truth to it. I mean, they can't win as long as you follow through and really, yeah, like you can actually hold them accountable for everything you lost. Which
I
if
would,
you really
I'd be down to look into that.
I can tell you more about like how I can show you what I did for like Meta and TikTok. You just have to have your shit together, right? You can't just like you have to like gather the evidence and make sure that look at this and then maybe show, business income. How much income did you lose? So we'll do an actual estimate of how much did you actually lose? How many people did you lose? How much time did you lose? How much money did you lose? All of this stuff. And you really break it down to show them that this is all the damage you caused. And I
I'd be
think
down for that. We can look at
more
that.
people would do something like this. Imagine, okay, we're two people doing it, but imagine if like 100,000 people started doing this and actually hold them accountable. And this is a lot what I've been trying to talk to people about. And I have this sovereign community for it. I said, we need to hold people accountable and not just let it slide. And I'm actually, this has nothing to do with this. I'm going to cover some things, but today I am officially publicly registered in the US Copyright Registry as the owner and trademarker of my strawman name.
Very nice.
Meaning, nobody can use my all caps name without my consent. And if they do, they break the trademark law. And that's pricey.
Very
I just
nice.
got the confirmation today. I was like, damn. The thing is, you don't even need a confirmation for this to be fine. Like, as long as you have recorded it, it's fine. But I actually didn't expect to get a confirmation on it. I was like, damn, this is nice.
That is nice.
Yeah, very. So yeah, but definitely I think more people should do that. Like if you have been wrongfully treated somehow, and not just because you feel like you were, but you actually have, can definitely do things about it.
Yeah. Well, let's chat about it after this and let's get it knocked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about pregnancy prep.
Yes.
Yes, because I obviously unintentionally I've been pregnancy prepping, I guess. I've just been prepping for life. Getting healthy and just cleaning up my whole life, cleaning up food, cleaning out. I've been eating very, very healthy for a very long time, but the last probably 2 years my mission was to try to eliminate everything that is bad out of my life. So, yes, I have technology. That is kind of like my bad thing right now. I got EMF blockers and stuff everywhere. Crystals and sage, but I have, I have 100% organic linen sheets. I make my own laundry detergent, make my own dish soap. I'm going to say 80% of my closet right now is 100% cotton or linen. I'm still getting used to like the fit of the linen clothing. It's just different, But most of the time I wear it. Every now and then I put something on. That sounds bad. I try to wear it most of the time. And just like switched out everything in my kitchen. I use all, what's it called? What are they called? The old school pans.
Like the cast iron pans?
Cast iron, yeah. So I cast iron pans. I actually, believe it or not, guys, I'm the air fryer lady, but I barely touch the air fryer anymore. So yeah, I bought, like, I have all completely unbleached parchment paper. If I ever need to bake something, I have completely unbleached actually I switched out toilet paper for a bidet, and I get a water filter on the bidet. Like all the little like extra things. You think if everybody out there were to switch out 1 or 2 things every month, it's not going to take that long before you have made a huge change in your life.
Yeah, when we walk people through, like when we do our big health reset stuff,
Hmm.
we do diet and hormones and the whole deal. One of the things we do is we start going through and we start clicking off these real easy, hey, quit using these candles, quit using
Yeah.
these things, change it, don't wash your dishes like this. Like so,
Hmm.
and it's like you said, like if you'll do one or two a month or like one every week or two, it's not very hard. And all of a sudden, like couple months in, you're like, "Oh, wow, like, I've made a lot of change there for
Yeah.
myself and my family."
Because you're not going to do 50 things at once. That's overwhelming. But just I always look out for new things. Every single day, I always have ears and eyes open for anything that I hear or see that could be better than what I'm doing. And
Yeah,
obviously,
that's
no bad toothpaste. I got all bamboo charcoal toothbrush. I got all charcoal floss. Guys, don't use the regular floss. It's like you can actually look at everything in your entire life, and there's probably a freaking chemical in it.
well, and that's, and what's really scary is, and I don't know if you guys are following this, but they're about to give all the chemical companies carte blanche legal and financial liability waivers, just like they gave vaccine manufacturers for any chemical that's used in food. And
Hmm.
so all the glyphosate, all the atrazine, like our government is about to give, you know, like a pardon so you can't sue them. Because if you come back later and you're like, hey, these
We will
chemicals that
get
you knew were toxic, you were spraying on our food and got me sick. They're like, haha, Congress said we don't have to pay for that now. You can't
well,
sue us.
that's not necessarily true. We can't sue them in commerce law probably, but when it comes to sovereign living people law, you can go for anybody because we don't operate within the law in the same law system as them. So yes, I believe absolutely we can, but you're not going to be able to do it with with like legal stuff. No.
Okay. Well, at least there's
So
still a way.
yeah, I mean, we if that is the case, but the thing is, so many people are not going to know this, and as I said, with everything, with anything anybody does, education, anyone like you mean talking about like business stuff, it's all about educating people because
Yeah.
people need to learn things, and anybody out there who has any sort of actually good service or product or whatever the hell you're selling, show people why, like educate them on, maybe you're selling a detox product, whatever the hell it is, and maybe it costs more than what they're finding on the shelf in the grocery store, but you got to explain like the thing on in the grocery store is actually making you sick, and the reason you
Yeah.
should use this. Yes, it's more expensive with real things. Real natural things are always going to cost more, which is sad, but that's how it is.
Well, and there's a lot of things like as I've noticed, like when you go through and you get higher quality, especially with supplementation, higher quality stuff that's, quantum field on and all the
Mhm.
chemistry's right and it's the right setup, you're usually going to pay more for that stuff than you are for the cheap stuff you can get at Target and, Costco and stuff like that. But then again, you're getting what you're paying for.
Well,
So if you
or
walk with somebody who knows what they're doing.
because a lot of that crap isn't even helping. So you're basically throwing the money in the trash because you're not getting anything out of it besides actually making you worse.
Well, and this is one of the big things, as we talk about, pregnancy prep, this is one of the big things I always work on is, if we just stop for a second, we ask, why are we all so unhealthy? Well, the
Mhm.
problem is that when a baby's born and 10 fingers and 10 toes, everyone's like, oh, it's super healthy. It's the maximum amount of healthy. And you're like,
Right.
no, it's a reflection of the mom. Like, how
Hmm.
healthy was she? Like, was she stressed out? Was she emotionally messed up? Was she nutrient deprived? Was she full of toxins?
Yep.
From vaccines and from food and water and
Hmm.
air. Yeah. So there's no way that baby can be healthy when it's born. And so this is why we have to start working on the moms ahead of time to get them cleaned up so that they can have healthy babies.
Yes. So how long do you think people should? Obviously, no, unexpected things happen. But if somebody's planning to have a child, how much time do you think they should put in on actually trying to better themselves first? I guess it's a
Three three to
case.
6 months is kind of where I like to sit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's one of those things where like, and I do this, I do this for a lot of different people. But one of the big things we do with these people is we bring them in and we go, hey, what are your 10 favorite foods? What
Mm-hmm.
if I could show you a way to eat your 10 or 8 of your 10 favorite foods in a way that's healthy for you?
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Yep.
replace the sweeteners, replace the, replace the processing, add in some clean proteins and some high end fats, take the seed oils out, replace them with
Mm-hmm.
quality fats that your body knows what to do with,
Mm-hmm.
and tweak your diet a little bit. It's always funny because the stuff that so many people were said were terrible for you, like, foods that contain cholesterol or saturated fat.
Yeah.
And people are like, you should never eat these, even though your brain is made out of all these fats
I
and
said
your lungs have to have saturated fat or else they can't make surfactant. So your
I,
lungs stick together. It's
I
it's silly.
clip the other day. It said, if you're feeling a little stupid someday, just remember that they told you to remove the cholesterol. It was something like that. I was like, yep, that's true.
Yeah, it's funny because I talk to people and they're like, "Well, I'm worried about a heart attack." I'm like, "Why?" Well, my cholesterol. I'm like, "Okay, look, cholesterol has no bearing on cardiovascular health." UCLA Medical did a study in 2009. I talk about this all the time. It was 136,000 people who were in the hospital because they had a heart attack, and over 75% of them had good cholesterol levels,
Yeah.
proving that it's not the levels of cholesterol in your blood that actually cause plaquing and heart attacks.
I wonder if somebody came up with that lie on purpose or if they actually believed that that was the cause. Do you know?
So the original research
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of this is based off of, first of all, wasn't a real study. What
Mm-hmm.
it was they said, "Hey, look, all these countries have high heart attacks. They also have high cholesterol." Well, the problem with that is that they left out all the countries with high cholesterol and low heart attacks, and
Mm-hmm.
low cholesterol and high heart attacks. So what they did was they cherry picked the information because they wanted to show that
Mm-hmm.
blood levels of cholesterol were directly tied to heart attacks, so they
Mm-hmm.
could sell statin drugs.
Yep. Well, I'm currently working on my stepdad. I've gone through my whole family, it's way better. And now I just got to my stepdad because it was that. I remember when I was young, it was always, his cholesterol is high. He can't eat this and he can't do that. And I was like, wait, that was never true. And then obviously they gave him the cholesterol medication and everything. And I was like, that's what's bad. That's what's making him bad.
Yeah, because it stops your body from utilizing D3. It stops it from
Yeah.
making testosterone. All your hormones get shut down. It's bad for the heart, bad for the brain. Like we've known this for a long time, and they did research studies that
Mm,
came out, and they were like, at best, a full like 20 years of statin drugs might give you 4 more days of life, but your quality of life is about 40% of what it would have been without the statin drugs. Joint pain, fatigue, like all
yeah.
that type of stuff. Brain, you can't think, like all that stuff, and so they're 100% not worth taking.
No. I think there are a lot of people in the world these days that are, they're here, but they're definitely not living.
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
they're just
Well, at
here.
least the quality of life, and that's one of those big things. Like I always tell people, like I don't care if I live to 90. I'd rather die at 80, but have a phenomenal life than
You
sit there
you
drooling to myself for 10 or 15 years, miserable in a nursing home.
you don't think you can be like 150?
I'll take as long as my quality of life's high. I'm good with being 200. I don't care
Did you ever do
how
your
old I get.
age test?
Oh my! Oh, I haven't done any of those age tests.
I'm gonna do it soon. I have a trip, but then I want to go actually go do it. I haven't. My wild guess is like 22, probably. We'll see.
See, and I don't know. Some of those things, it's a lot of these things are super fun, and everybody leans. I think people lean into some of this stuff a little bit too hard, but you know, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things that like people hold 100%, right now, and it's silly. Like, I see it probably the biggest thing that I see with both moms to be and athletes and people who are trying to lose weight is that they're stuck in systems that are broken and that don't work. Like the calorie system. Like people
Oh,
who use calories to denominate how their diet goes is completely pointless. Uh, you
what is
know,
that? Do
any
you have a competition photo somewhere of
do
yourself?
I have any of mine?
Yeah, so I can pull it up,
I
show people
I've
that.
got them somewhere. I'll have to send them to
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Um,
And I was going to tell people that you actually competed and you didn't do it the way all the bodybuilders do.
yeah. The fun thing is that like so the bodybuilding stuff for me it was funny because people asked me they're like did you win and I was like I did, but like if you're talking about trophies, like one, yes, but the big thing for me was that it was always one of those things where because 2-3 years ago I was fat because I was running the calories model and I finally figured out the
Hmm.
chemistry and I was like, oh, this is all nonsense. And
Mhm.
so my big thing was I just wanted to, put a date, work really, really hard to this date, and then go
Mhm.
forward. But no, it was that was the big thing that I've found is it's funny because I have I have swapped, according to DEXA, about 50-ish pounds of fat for 50 pounds of muscle over the past 18 months. And it's been spectacular. I'm eating, blueberry pie with, ice cream and pecan pie and chocolate chip cookie dough and,
Mhm.
stuff like that all the time. And, it's helped me lose the fat and gain the muscle.
Mhm.
So it's all about, it has nothing, like I said, it's nothing to do with calories. It's all about, what are your macros? Like, how are you running your system? Like, what does your body run off of? And what when you put food in your mouth, what does it turn into? Because
Yeah.
you eat sugar, it raises that insulin response that stores it as fat. You eat protein, raises the glucagon function, and then starts using fat as a fuel source. So the hormones our bodies use after we eat the foods are really what matters. But people don't want to talk about that because that's the way that one, the chemistry is a little bit more difficult, but that's also the way to get everybody healed. You know, you do a detox and you change their diet, and we've 100% of people we've worked with type 2 diabetes, their type 2 diabetes is gone in a couple months. So
Mhm.
it is one of those things that a lot of this stuff is totally fixable. It's
Yeah.
just, again, like diabetes is worth $120 billion a year
Yeah.
to maintain and manage. That's why they don't want to fix it. And
Uh-huh.
so, but it's not super difficult to fix if you just
Yeah.
want to.
And so many people have gut issues these days, and I talk to people all the time that they can't lose weight and they keep cutting food and more cut, and then they do more and more and more cardio, and they're like, I can't lose the weight. I'm like, and then you start conversation. It turns out they have an autoimmune disease. I'm like, yeah, well, that would be why. How about we talk about that instead of how much you're eating? Maybe we should look at
Well,
it first. And
that's a big piece of it. People can't. Well, I can't gain the muscles because your gut's fried and you can't absorb anything. So,
that
or
used
what I see more.
no nothingness, and my gut was
Yeah.
just disaster. And I couldn't gain any weight, and everyone thought I was so lucky, and all I wanted was muscle.
Oh, I see that all the time. You get these ectomorphs in and they
Mm,
can't gain any mass at all. And
yeah,
people are like, they're like, I can eat whatever I want to and I never gain any ounce. And people are like, oh, that's gotta be great. They're like, no, I want to gain
no,
muscle.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
terrible for those people. But again, it's clean the gut up, get that stuff in. But one of the things
Mhm.
I find hilarious is people will change their diet, but they can't lose any fat. And the reason for
Uh,
that is because like maybe your diet was messed up and causing you a problem in the beginning, but now you've got a parasitic infection. And
mm,
anyone who has an animal, cat, dog, or anything, you have a parasitic infection. But a lot of times people come in and they're like, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I've changed my diet and I'm exercising. Well, we pull their blood and you pull fasting insulin, and their
mm,
fasting insulin is high. Well, what people don't understand is the way the hormone system works is that your body uses a hormone called glucagon to actually produce and start burning fat for fuel.
mm,
Glucagon will not be expressed if we have higher insulin. So if you have a fasting insulin above 10, your body's not really going to be able to start using fat as a fuel source because the insulin is telling it not to. And
mm,
that's a really, really big piece that people don't understand. So here's the thing I think is hilarious. So people use the calorie system, right?
mhm.
And so they cut their calories to lose weight. And that's the other problem. They're looking at losing weight, not losing fat, because you could lose 10 pounds. Did you lose
Yeah.
muscle? Did you lose fat? Did you lose bone? Did you lose water weight? Did you lose inflammatory weight? Those were all totally different.
Mhm.
And so what ends up happening is these people do lose the 10 pounds, right?
And
And
then
they hated it.
happy,
They
oh,
sacrificed.
they still look, you know.
Well, the other thing is they lose like 50% of that's muscle. And so then they go back to their diet, they gain their 10, 12, 15 pounds back. And they're like, it's always harder to lose the second time. That's right. Because the muscle is actually where your metabolism is. It's burning your fat. And you lost, 5 pounds of it in your last calorie restricted diet, your calorie
Yeah,
deficit diet. So I just think it's hilarious. And I feel so bad for pregnant women who are
yeah.
trying to, I don't want to get too fat. So I'm going to monitor my calories instead of my macros.
I'm
And
on it.
so,
Nothing.
yeah, and they
Well,
tear
I
themselves up.
used to, so I understand it.
Well, and that's the thing is like the problem that irritates me is that I was a big fat guy for a long time, and I did everything right. I ate all the foods, I monitored the calories, and I did the whole thing, and I could never get where I wanted to go. And when I
Mm,
started figured out the chemistry, I was like, oh, well, here's where everything is. And so I started changing how I was doing things, and it was
mhm.
just super fast. Everything kind of went back where it's supposed to go. So
Yeah,
again, it's kids, take a look at it. It's chemistry over calories. Fact over fiction. Get those things together, and you can push yourself
yeah.
wherever you want to
No,
go.
like to understand, I think we might have talked about it a little bit, but as I see all these extremists online right now, the carnivores versus the vegans, and it's war going on. And I follow some of these carnivore people, and I always point out, hey, I love meat. I eat meat every day. I eat eggs every day. Like, I'm totally with you on this food is great, and I feel good, everything. But you can't go out there and tell the world that all you guys suck, and if you don't do carnivore, nothing is ever gonna fix itself. You're gonna, if you don't go carnivore, no, that's not how it doesn't work for everybody. And then you always see these people in the comments, like I click sometimes, and somebody's like, I really try to do you guys' thing, but it didn't work. And I actually didn't.
Yeah.
I'm still sick. And I was like, it doesn't work for every single, you can't do the exact same thing as another person. Like, I would never be a full-blown carnivore. I still eat meat, but I wouldn't do full carnivore. I just eat whatever my body is asking for at the moment. And it can be anything. And sometimes that's vegan food. And I don't eat vegan food for like a whole day, but I do love a lot of vegan food. And then I have certain food that doesn't do super well for me, and then I just don't eat those. And you just gotta just see. And another like being a competitor, right? So I always tracked. I didn't count calories. I actually never did that. That's why people would always ask me, how many calories do you eat? I don't know. They're like, what do you mean you don't know? No. Don't get me wrong. I track what I eat. I don't track calories. I track, how much steak am I eating? How much blah, blah, blah. It was more like that. So I didn't really care about the number like that. But now I just eat whatever my body seems to want. And I have been 145 pounds. Oh, shoot. I lost him. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I don't know what happened.
It's all right.
Yeah, I've been 145 pounds for a whole year straight. So we have a scale, obviously, in the gym because it's a fighting gym. So every now and then I check, not because I care. And it's crazy. I've been 145 pounds for a whole year straight. I don't track anything. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. I actually have had, this might sound shocking to people, I've had pizza 3 times in the last month. But not like freaking Domino's or some crap. I found, listen to this, an all organic, farm only sourdough pizza place. So it's like farm to table, and they bake their own sourdough. I mean, it's amazing. And I ate it, and I was like, it feels so good. If I haven't found that, I'm not gonna eat it. But yeah, I was pretty happy.
Well, and sourdough is fun because sourdough chemically doesn't bring the glucose up as much, and so it doesn't
Mhm.
reduce the insulin as much
Yeah.
as normal white bread.
Oh,
So, and a
I
lot of this stuff, it's funny because like a lot of times I'll walk people through this, and
Mhm.
I'll help them break their macros down and find out where their macros need to be.
Mhm.
But like you said, there isn't a diet for people. There's a diet for a person. Like
Yeah.
I've had people who've run carnivore and ran it perfectly.
Mhm.
And this patient who called me, she's like, I got to have your help. I'm trying to run carnivore, and here's how I'm doing it. And she sent me her diet, and I was like, this is actually perfect. And
Mhm.
she was like, but I'm fatigued. So I got her a continuous glucose monitor, and we found out that her glucose was in the low 60s.
Mhm.
And so her body doesn't convert protein over fast enough into sugar. And so
Mhm.
we had to start adding in some lower GI carbohydrates so her
Mhm.
body would function properly and
Yeah.
maintain where it's supposed to be. But
Mhm.
we did find her a macro set where she was able to lose weight, had tons of energy, and felt great.
Mhm.
But that's the thing is, like I said, everyone, like we were talking about, everyone kind of has their own diet. Is carnivore a great diet? Yeah. Is it great for everybody? No. You
Mhm.
know, can you do a vegetarian diet? Can you do paleo? Can you do like Mediterranean? Can you do keto? You can
Mhm.
do all those diets.
Yeah.
It's just which one's best for you, and not just best for your chemistry. Which one can you sustain? Right? Because
Yeah.
if you're like, oh, I can do this diet for 3 or 4 weeks for sure, and then when I come off, I'm gonna, go crazy. You're like, well, that's not
No.
how we're gonna do this. That's
Mm.
not real.
You need to be able to eat the things you love all the time. Like, I have my thing, which I've loved for a few years now, is like dried mangoes. I mean, it's just like the best thing in the world. And I eat them a couple of times a week. But I mean, if I was like on doing that bodybuilding thing before, I could never have had that. It's like, because
Well,
now
and so the funny thing
I
is,
can, I also don't go and eat 8,000 of them, you know?
yeah. Well, and there's little tricks you can do about throwing fiber in and around those things, and so it
Mm.
decreases the absorption of the sugars and stuff like that, and that's fun. Um, but and there's lots of things like I like dates. You can eat a lot of
Oh,
dates, or you can have
that's
some dates because
pregnancy.
the allulose that's in them.
That's you eat dates to soften your cervix for birth.
Yeah,
So I mean, I've always been eating them, but I was like, ooh, I can eat extras. Oh,
and
eating.
that's
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, so that's one of those big things that what people have to understand is that when you're putting together a diet,
Mm-hmm.
and like this is one of the things that I do when we go through our physicals and everything. I walk people through how to figure out what their stuff is and how to
Mm-hmm.
regulate it, so that I'm not their diet pimp. They figure out how to eat all the food.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where like you can figure out, hey, this is how I want to integrate these things in, and this
Mm-hmm.
is how I'm going to kind of buffer what I'm doing. But we have to recognize that we're producing energy, which is ATP. That's one of the things. But the other things, we're got to get all the cofactors, all the nutrients, all that type of stuff in. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where you're like, all right, you can do this diet over here and then supplement over here, or you can, eat these type of things in your diet and you don't have to supplement nearly as much. But at the end of the day, we got to get all the chemicals in. And that's really
Yeah.
where all this comes from is, are you getting in the chemicals your body needs?
Mm-hmm. Do you think that if a woman gets pregnant, do you think that they need to change their diet? If they're doing something that makes them feel good and everything, do you believe that it's necessary to make changes?
Um, if I had, so like you're kind of an odd duck in this because like, we've been working on this stuff. Like you did the parasite detox, you've done all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Your diet's been really clean for a long time. You necessarily don't necessarily need to change your diet, but I would say 90% of the women who are out there definitely need to change their diet
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of these people are and unbeknownst to them,
Mm-hmm.
eating a bunch of things that are really not a good idea.
Yeah.
One, when you're pregnant, or two, at all. And so, that's one of those things where like, hey, look, you need some extra XYZ. And so let's get
Mm.
these things into you. So
Yeah, I haven't made any the only thing I changed personally is that I started eating a little bit more eggs than I did before. So I actually eat 6 eggs a day. And that's really the only difference. Other than that, I just eat as usual.
that's actually one of the things I try to get women to do is eat more eggs because we're getting good heme iron, we're getting good cholesterol, we're getting good choline, we're
Mm.
getting like there's a lot of good nutrients that are in egg. And the other thing I try to get people to do is a little bit fattier steak.
Yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the all of the it's always funny because I tell people who are trying to get muscle, they're trying to grow muscle tissue. I'm like, go Google the nutrients that are in steak. And
Mm-hmm.
people come back, they go, oh, you wanted me to see that steak was really nutritious. I'm like, well, yeah, but I also wanted you to see that's the ingredient list for muscle tissue. If you're not getting zinc and selenium and CoQ10 and
It's
methylated B vitamins, and
stuff in a steak that I don't think people like understand.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because again, they lied to this whole time. The FDA came out and said that Lucky Charms is healthier for you than steak. Now, granted, it's the government, and the government never doesn't know how to tell you the truth. But at the same time, people have been lied to about eggs and steak and stuff like that and fat for so long
And the
that
sun.
it's so confusing. And the
Whole
sun,
thing.
yeah,
It's just like, yeah, everything from Mother Nature is dangerous, but everything made in a lab is good. Like how, may use some common sense. And it was actually a lady. So I said, I've told you this before. I've been on a search for somebody that has been pregnant and given birth and been a full blown vegan because I'm curious and I want to talk to people that have done differently. I don't believe I could do that, but I don't believe I could be vegan on a regular day either. So, I'm
yeah.
not the one to judge and say it doesn't work, but I'm looking for it. And there was a lady online that made a post about something and I commented to her, and this was a genuine question from me. I wasn't trying to be rude. I said, "Hey, I'm very curious, but you as a vegan, where do you get choline from? I'm literally just curious." And her response was, "Humans doesn't actually need a lot of choline." Oh, is that so? I said, okay, but that was an interesting response. I was like, no, I genuinely, okay, never mind. I was
Well,
like,
and that's yeah, and that's part of the problem we get into with some of these diets. It's I love it when people are like, "Oh, I'm running a keto diet," and I look what they're eating. I'm like, "You're not running keto. You're running a high protein diet." They're like, "That's the same thing." I'm like,
no,
"No, keto has a very specific like
you're
chemical definition."
going to ketosis. That's the whole point, right?
Right,
I
right, right.
say
You-
that.
You're usually looking at 3 to 4 times the fat to protein ratio.
Mhm.
So, but and that's the thing. Like, and I'm not saying that people can't be can't be healthy vegan. Um, but the thing is, like, so there's a lot of fiber in the vegan diet, and the
Mhm.
fiber blocks absorption of nutrients.
Mhm.
There's the amount, this type of iron, the type of B vitamins, the type, like, it's just, the type of cholesterol that we need. It's just, it's very, very difficult to get those chemicals in
Mhm.
from a non-meat based or not meat supplemented diet. So, a lot of people come in like, well, I'm going to run plant-based diets. And I'm like, all right, why? Well, because they're healthier. I'm like, well, that's not accurate at all.
Mhm.
And so we can walk through this. We're like, well, because I have a philosophical issue with killing animals. And I'm like, all right, if that's where you're at,
I have a
okay. You know,
physics what never mind. I was gonna say the same about plant. I was like, plants are also alive. If people don't believe that, just go talk shit to your plant and see it die, you know? Like,
yeah.
so
It's
yes, it's slightly different maybe, but it's a still living thing.
Well, and but that's the thing, is it's like, look, we have to get the chemicals in us that we require to run our body. Now, if you want to eat vegan and take a bunch of supplements, knock yourself out. Like, the last guy who's going to talk smack about taking a bunch of supplements is me, because I take almost as much as Dave Asbury does. So I probably take 50, 60 different
I'm a
supplements a
less
day. So
more type of person. But also I know
to
getting most of it in through my food because I'm eating in that way. If I was like
and
not an eater, I'm an eat. I like eating, you know. So if I was like a not eater, because some people are just not eaters, they just don't like eating. You know, okay, maybe I would have to reconsider things. But right now, I don't. I'm very much less is more.
again, it goes back to, what are you willing to sustain? What are you willing to do to make sure that your body is where it's supposed to be?
Hmm.
Um, and so, I make sure that all my stuff is super covered because of the variety of different things.
Hmm.
Um, but again, it's what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Like, one of the things is, when we go through, like, when we, like, for instance, you're doing the MMA thing. So when we work with MMA fighters, one
Hmm.
of the big things I try to do with them is, I'm like, let's move you to a fat-based diet. Because if you're a
Oh,
fat-based diet, your body, you don't
fat.
have blood sugar issues.
Yeah, not like necessarily not intentionally really, but I just started. I eat at least a whole avocado every day, and instead of I used to like lean meat more than fatty meat, so I would go for like flank steak or lean beef, whatever. Now I'm, the rib eyes. I actually even eat some of the fat, which I didn't even used to be able to do. But now when I have such amazing quality meat, if somebody wants to know the guy, I will send him. It's just like it's a very small farm. And I asked him once, I'm like, oh God, you got to come on my live stream. He's like, maybe not. We don't want to get shut down. He said, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
good point. Good point. So I'm so happy like that. It just doesn't taste like anything else, you know? So do eat a lot of the fat, and yeah, definitely feel great. And I haven't like gained weight from it or gained fat from it. Now I've gained, weirdly enough, I only gained 4 pounds with a pregnancy.
Well, so it's weird because, like, I had a little influencer, and she was so scared about
Mm-hmm.
changing her diet from a thirds, and I don't a thirds diet where that's 30% carbs, 30% fat, and 30% protein
Mm-hmm.
is a fine diet for a decent amount of people for maintenance, but it's not going to make you lose fat or gain muscle mass. It's kind of a sit
Yeah.
still and spin your wheels type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved her from that to a high fat diet. And at first she got all puffy and she had some stool issues and stuff like that as we were moving her off of her other stuff. And I'm like, give it 2 weeks. And she's like, fine. And then, like, 4 days, 5 days in, she's like, I'm puffy. My clothes don't fit. I feel terrible, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just let it go. She gets about 7, 8 days in, and I talked to her, and she's like, I'm down 4 pounds on the scale from where I was. She was like, my shoulder feels amazing. All the pain in my body is pretty much gone. And she's like, I feel twice as strong in the gym. And she's like, I'm not getting tired in the middle of the day now. I
Yeah.
was
You
like,
definitely need
yeah.
an adjustment period. If you've been doing something for so long, your body's just used to it. So yeah.
Well, the other problem we get into, and people don't factor this in, or maybe they don't know, when you radically change the food that's going into your body,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to change your gut flora. Because if your gut flora is there, hey, we're breaking down all of this type of food. And so we have, like, if you're going to eat more carbohydrates, you have a broader band of the things that break down carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
If you stop eating carbohydrates, those die off because they don't have as much stuff to eat. But the small version of stuff that was eating fats and proteins and stuff like that, they now start to expand. And so you should always expect some type of a gut feeling change if you change your macro set a decent amount. So this is why we see a lot of people who go carnivore, they go keto or something like this, and
Mhm.
they complain about, oh, I had liquid stools for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And it's funny because you talk to me, you're like, well, are you getting in your water, your electrolytes? You do all that safety stuff. And then
Mhm.
you're like, how do you feel throughout the day? And I feel great though. I feel amazing. Like it's almost worth having liquid stools because of how good I feel. And I'm like, that's because you're losing all that inflammatory water weight. You're losing all the
I
toxins.
I changed the food for the dog here, right? So I found this
Hmm.
brand that makes all natural, like real dog food, and all they do is freeze dry it so they don't cook away the nutrients. And
Hmm.
I mean, he loves it. And I'm reading on it. I'm like, there's no bullshit in this stuff. And that was the same. It was a straight diarrhea, but I'm sure he feels great. He loves it. I was like, I just, that's it. That's just what it is. But
Well,
he,
yeah, and if you couple that with a detox where you're like, all right, cool, we're gonna do all this intentionally, and this is how we usually do it here, is all right, we're gonna kill the parasites, we're gonna kill the yeast, we're gonna reset the gut flora, we're gonna do all that stuff, and we're gonna change your hormones, and we're gonna change your diet. And so in the first month, we kind of get all that stuff out of the way.
Mhm.
And it is really, really fun when you're like, all right, we're gonna do this in a targeted, specific, like like we've been doing this for 20 years. We know exactly how to put this together. And so we're gonna do this. And the amount of change you get, like we've had people who, like, I'm working with a bunch of veterans right now through charities to break
Mhm.
their PTSD, and we're seeing anxiety and depression and PTSD and fatigue go away. And
Mhm.
all we're doing is changing diet. Like we haven't even done the psychedelics, we haven't done any of the NLP work, we haven't done any of that stuff yet. And these guys are coming back reporting that their anxiety is way calmed down. I've got guys who are depressed. This is my favorite thing about depression. Like, people are like, it was depression's just, you got to suck it up for a while, and then it's a chemical imbalance. And now we're starting to kind of realize the chemical imbalance thing is 100% accurate. Like I got this kid, I feel so bad for him. I got this guy in, he's 30. He's depressed. His doctors have been just trying to run SSRIs and stuff like that, and that haven't been helping at all. And I
Mhm.
pull his nutrients, and he's low T, he is low iodine, he's low B vitamins, and he's low in two or three other things. D3, all of those are linked to depression. And he's low in all of them. Then he's high in C-reactive protein. He's high in cortisol levels. He's high in fasting insulin. He's high in all the inflammatory things that also are associated with depression. And I'm like, if there's any or ever who had a case for chemical, imbalances causing depression, it's this guy. And we started cleaning his gut up and putting him kind of back where it's supposed to go. And he's already started making pretty good results. And
And people can't
I
connect.
feel he's been like this.
It's all
He's been
connected.
like the first 10 years.
Yeah, and they probably, because we're so taught that, if you're depressed, this is something going on right here with whatever, or like, if you have a flare up going on over here, it only is from there, like it can have nothing to do with anything else. That's just so it hurts here, like we have to, it's just right there, it's nothing else. So I mean, I understand it's very confusing for people. And as I always say, hey, we fix your gut and a lot of things will fix themselves. And then when that's done, and if there's anything more left, okay, then you can address that. But you can't start addressing things and then just leave the keys to the entire body and just let them be shitty and then pop a bunch of pills that is making it even shittier. Or so actually somebody asked me today, um, very common thing. So somebody wants to try the Acemannan and said, "Well, I'm doing chemotherapy right now, so I probably should wait until I'm done to start it." Hell no! I said you start right now. Like that chemo is slowly killing you. So at least we can try to slow down that process of it completely. Just either you don't do the chemo, but that's your choice. If you want to do it, at
Yeah.
least we can try to support your body through it. But you think that no, I probably shouldn't start. Okay, so you just wanted to wipe you out. It's yeah.
Well, and that's, it's funny because, like, the problem we get into with chemo
Mhm.
is they're like, when they're like, well, how effective is chemo? How often is it effective? Well, now we took, this giant swath, right? Of all the cancers, and you're like, hey, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, chemo actually works pretty well on. All the other things, not so well. And so what ends up happening is that they're like, well, it's effective 40% of the time. No, no. How often is it effective at the cancer you have? Not how often is it effective, period. Because that's one of the big things we're starting to see is that there's a lot of cancers it doesn't do anything for. And you'd rather, like, I've talked to patients, cancer patients who've made it through in a remission. And I think everyone I've talked to who's done it has told me that the next time, if they ever get cancer again, they're not going to do chemo. They're just going to let it kill them because chemo is so horrible.
Yeah. And it doesn't do anything good for anybody. And they don't, I mean, they don't really offer them any other options. So people also don't know that there are other options. Do you have to make some maybe drastic lifestyle changes? Yes. But again, if you do the chemo, and which is also what they're not saying. So if you get cancer, whatever, you do chemo, you get rid of it, you don't change your life, you're probably going to get it again.
Yeah.
Like most people
Well,
that have cancer get it more than one time.
and here's the problem people need to understand. The lifestyle that you gave you cancer,
Hmm.
if you don't change that lifestyle, it will give you cancer again.
Yeah.
So if you don't kill the parasites, if you don't, and here's one of the big things. This is one of the things I've been trying to explain to people, because we talk about stress a lot,
Hmm.
right? Oh,
Hmm.
I was stressed out, and stress does this, and stress shifts you from parasympathetic to sympathetic, and it, shuts off your digestive, and stress, stress, stress. But no one defines what stress is. It's
Hmm.
important we define this. Stress is a bundle of emotions. It's guilt, it's fear, and it's sadness.
Hmm.
And so what ends up happening is if you start recognizing, oh, stress are emotions. So this negative stress paradigm that's destroying me, we need to start pushing away from that. We need to start building ourselves back into the joy paradigm where we're actually having positive emotional function to help heal our body. And so, we talk about this a lot when we talk about like neuro-linguistic programming and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
it's one of those things where it's like, just because we have less bad doesn't mean we have good. And so you can take the toxins out, and that's fantastic, and you should, but you've got to fill the body with something positive. And so when we talk about stress, they're like, well, how am I going to deal with my stress? Like, well, go work out. Yeah, working out's great. But here's the thing. If we isolate and we actually recognize that our emotional problems, the guilt, the sadness, the fear, if we don't replace those with something else, we have this void in us that has to be just going to find something. And
Hmm.
since we've already been looking for those things, the stressful things, we're not going to build ourselves positive. So you actually have to work on mindset function of pushing yourself back into a positive direction. And this is
Hmm.
one of those things that this when we talk about pregnancy planning, people are like, well, how does this have anything to do with that? Here's the thing. We know there's research on this. We know that significant emotional events will change your epigenetics, which means if you have a significant emotional event before or during your pregnancy, you can start increasing the chances your child will have more anxiety, more anger issues,
Hmm.
more digestive problems, all of these things. And so this is one of the big reasons why I'm like, when we start working on these women for pregnancy prep, if you don't include some type of emotional, reset, you're going to have problems. And again, whatever works for you works for you. I am not a fan of the Freudian model, the psychotherapy where you just sit and associate into your problems and talk about your problems.
Oh no.
Actually, so like I'm an Alfred Adler fan, I'm an NLP fan. Look, just ask your unconscious mind to forgive you for all those things and move on. And once it does, great, all those things are not bothering you anymore. And so
Hmm.
that's the best, in my opinion. That's the best way to go. Do what you need to do for your emotional EMDR or whatever you're going to do.
Also,
If you're going to do psychedelics, great. But
like these things people say, and it's so underestimated, I think. And I didn't always used to do this, but like do your, every day say what you're grateful for. Every day, manifest things. Like I did for a while. I manifested the baby too. I said again, I didn't think it was going to happen now. I didn't, but
yeah,
yeah, I had already told myself probably over a year ago that I am going to have a baby. Like I don't believe in anything in the medical system. They told me I can't, and yeah, it hasn't worked, but also me believing them only added on to the problem. So just like saying things, and I said to people, good example. I have a friend who every time I talk to this person, oh, I have no money. Everything is so hard. I'm really struggling. Like you don't understand what it's like to have no money. I say you have to stop saying that. Do you know that
yeah,
you're never gonna have money because you tell me you probably say it every single day you say you don't have any money. I said start saying that you do. You got it, like that it starts there. And I know for some people it's hard. If your wallet is empty, it's hard to say that there's money there. But And this is just one example, and you can apply it to anything. If you are fat and you want to be skinny, say every day, I am thin and, the healthy weight, whatever. Like, just say it even before it exists. Where I told my friend, her daughter can't see, right? So I said to her, can you say to your mirror, like, I guess she can see on one eye or something. I asked her, she's little, and I said, could you do me a favor? I said, could we test something? I said, can you look yourself in the mirror every day and say, I can see? And she's like, yeah, I can do that. I was like, good. And I'm just like, let her do it. I mean, you got to start. That's where it all starts.
Well, and there's a whole lot to that. When we talk about moving to the cause side of the equation, you can either be a victim or a victor, and it's one of those things where, all right, this thing happened to you, cool, great, not arguing. How are we going to change this? How are
Mhm.
we going to take control? How are we going to move us back to the position where we're going to succeed? Like, how are we going to do that? And a lot of what you're talking about is wrapped up in that, because if you can, if you're like, oh, the world's terrible and I'm broke and blah, 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 and everyone's free of that. I'm free of that. But at the same time, it's one of those deals where you're like, if you keep telling yourself that, you're not going to move out of that position. If you start telling yourself, "Oh, I've done some things and I'm doing some things that are going to help move me out of this position, and soon I'm going to be here. And when I'm here, this is how my life's going to be." And you start associating into that, and you start kind of working through that, and you're doing the things to move you in the right direction. You
Mhm.
can't just wake up every morning and be like, I'm going to win the lottery today. Like, that's not necessarily how this is working. But as you start going through it and you start kind of putting these things together, you can start kind of getting these things to start moving for you in that direction. And that's one of the big things about prayer. That's a big thing
Mhm.
about,
Yeah.
meditation. It's a big thing about, getting your mindset right at the beginning of the day. And we do a thing that's similar to what you're talking about with gratitudes.
Mhm.
Um, and it's been really beneficial at radically changing the way people's lives go.
Yeah. I have something that I like to do, and I try to do it every day. I actually say to myself, or the universe, or the God, whatever people want to say, I say that, like, just an example. Let's say that I'll say me and Dr. Chalmers have a great friendship. Like, little things like that. I talk about relationships with people. And I
Hmm.
mean, it definitely works. Like, you just have better relationships with people. And it can be, I had somebody in my DM once who said, was kind of, venting out about their bad relationship with their girlfriend or whatever. And I said, would you please try something? I said, can you say out loud every day, me and my girlfriend have a amazing relationship? I said, just say it every single day. And I got a message after a few weeks, and I was like, oh my God, it has never been this good before. And I said, yeah,
Yeah.
because you keep telling yourself that, and you're going to change energy, and things just change. And I can't describe the science behind how it works, but it does.
Well, and so it's one of those things, like when we do, and I like doing, so one of my favorite things to do is work with couples. Um, because like when people are married and that type of thing,
Hmm.
and it's kind of cheating, but I'll take the woman and I'll clean the woman up, give her more energy, fix her hormones, and then all of a sudden she has great orgasms and she wants to have sex. And all of a sudden, when you have a relationship and you triple the sex in it, the guy's almost always happier. And when the guy's happier, it's easier to talk him into
Wait, is
being nicer to the woman.
and not the opposite? You,
Well,
it goes that way.
well, so that it's just one of those things, and so like the woman's happier because she's losing the fat and she's looking better. She's got more energy. Her
Mhm.
orgasms are awesome, and mental clarity's back, and all this energy and all that fun stuff. But what ends up happening is that now that the guy is having sex and he feels loved and appreciated,
Mhm.
he can then turn that around on the wife and show her ways that he loves and appreciates her, whatever her method of receiving that love
Mhm.
is. And you can walk him through and help him find that out. But one of the things I told him is, I'm like kind of like the gratitude thing. I'm like, every day, and I teach them how to do this, how to what we call
Mhm.
opening loops, and they find all these reasons why they love their wife or their husband every day. And what ends up happening is, because they're open to finding these little things, all of a sudden they get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And the thing that pisses me off about this, and I rant and I rave about this, and churches hate talking to me. I got kicked out of a church here in Dallas because I had a bottle of wine. Um, literally, that's
Mhm.
Dallas and Prestonwood Baptist kicked me out, told me I was not welcome there anymore because I split a bottle of wine with a girl on a date. But this is one of those things we're trying to talk about. Like, this is the stuff we need to talk about in our marriages. But like the Christian guys who talk about how it's really important, and I count myself as a Christian just as an FYI.
Mhm.
But the thing that irritates me about our group, like in our house, when I clean up our own home, is we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about, how to make sure that you love your wife and your husband. We don't talk about all the little things that, build a marriage up until it's about time to fall apart. And then we try to rescue it. I have never heard, and maybe I'm going to the wrong churches, but I've never heard a sermon from the actual on Sunday about positive function about sex and marriages, positive function about staying fit for your husband or wife, you
Mhm.
know, doing the things that are required to build a healthy marriage. We're such in defense mode instead of offense mode on a lot of this stuff, and it's so irritating to me that you can have such amazing relationships that are so wildly positive for the children, and it's not super difficult to do that. Like, a lot of people are like, I'll do the work, I just don't know I don't know what to do. And so
Mhm.
sitting these people down and be like, here's how you do it, and here's why it works, and here's how you guys are going to do it. When they start doing it, and all of a sudden these relationships get really awesome, that's super fun. But that's just mental stuff. That's all. That's like one of the things. Like, so, and that's one of the other big things. And that's why I love talking to you, is because you understand holistic care. When we talk about, oh, we're going to change your diet, we're going to exercise, we're going to change your hormones, we're going to, get your sleep back together. People go, oh yeah, that's great, that's great. I'm like, and then after that 6 weeks, then we're going to start on your mental work, your mental, psychological, emotional work. And
Mhm.
people go, I don't think I need that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
that's what the rest of
everybody.
this is.
Yeah.
The first 5 to 6 weeks is getting your chemistry back. The
Mm.
rest of your life is getting your mind and your emotional set where it needs to be.
It doesn't even matter where you are in it. We all need to do, and for me, I just, I do my meditations. That's just the thing. And I sometimes, whatever it is, if something feels like a lot or stressful or whatever, and especially now when I'm pregnant, I try to be, as soon as there is something, I'm just like, just need to take a moment, just release, just feel better. Baby's good. Everything's good. Like whatever you got to do for it. But I don't know how I didn't do this before, because thanks to this, and I've been practicing this way of doing it for years now, I never have a bad day. I used to have bad days. Now I'm like, I can have a bad moment. It can happen, but I know what to do then and just release it. And it doesn't, yeah, if you have for me, okay, I like to actually go lay down when I do a meditation, but let's say you have a busy job, you're sitting at your job, you can literally do it by your desk. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, even though it's maybe nicer to do it peacefully like that, but you don't have to. I watched Joel one
But
day. We went, I don't know where we were, like out and about somewhere. And I was like, I looked at him and said, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just meditating real quick. It's like standing right in the middle of the street. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
well, and so there's some, like, so, if you've ever heard of, Pavlov's dog, where you ring the bell and made the dog salivate, there's
Yes.
all sorts of little anchors and little things you can do for yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and so it helps you kind of focus and meditate and kind of wash some of this stuff off.
Hmm.
We teach people how to anchor and how to, like, okay, I'm going to tie this emotion, this feeling to this pressure point, and I'm going to hit this pressure point to help focus me so that I can kind of release these things quicker. And there's lots of things like that you can do that are really, really beneficial. But the big thing is that, and especially this, I realize how silly this sounds, but it's super important. If we don't start working on the psychological emotional piece of pregnancy preparation, we're
Hmm.
missing a giant, giant piece of what's healthy for the mama and for the baby.
Hmm. And what about the dads? So what do you think as far as the
So
prep?
dads have got to do the same thing, because here's the thing that people need to understand, like the dads need to understand. Like, you've got to clean yourself up, because if you start cleaning yourself up today, your sperm isn't going to be clean for weeks or months, because that's
Hmm.
how it kind of processes through, right?
Hmm.
So think of it that way, first primarily. And then the other thing is that you set the tone emotionally for your family. If you're angry, if you're grumpy, if you're,
Hmm.
if you're weak, if you're whatever, that's going to be that's gonna be the tone for your family.
Hmm.
And so what you need to do is you need to figure out, okay, how do I become mentally strong enough to deal with all all of the pressures that's coming on at me from the work, from the school, from the social, from whatever it is, like all that stuff. And how am I going to then be there as an emotional safety point for my wife and or whoever she is, the person who's pregnant, the pregnant woman in this case, how are you going to be there for that person? And so there's a lot of that. And I'll tell you, the thing that we've lost that I think is like we've lost a lot of things between 100 years ago and now.
Mhm.
One of the things is we have lost that circle of men where you can everybody gets together and it's the generational thing, right? So it'd be like my dad and a bunch of his buddies, and then a bunch of guys like me, my age, and then the younger guys, right? And so it's like, hey, the guys who haven't gotten married, talk to the guys who've been married for 10 years. The
Mhm.
guys who've been married for 10 years, talk to the guys who've been married 30 years and
Yeah.
kind of figure out, hey, how do I walk through this minefield of crazy?
Mhm.
And that's a big thing. So what happens now is that now, like, because I mentor a bunch of 20-year-olds, um, now it's one of those things where you have to go out and find these guys and be like, hey, give me the information. And it's funny, like it's always funny because like some of these guys, some of the dads get kind of, hurt because they're like, we've got to pay you to counsel my kid on things that he should be listening to me for. And I'm like, if it makes you feel any better, people come and pay me a lot of money to do this very thing. And I am sending my kids to my friends and I'm paying them to mentor my children because here's the thing. And if you haven't figured this out about being a parent, you need to know this going in. Your job is to make sure your kid gets where they're supposed to go. They
Mhm.
are not going to listen to you. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going
Well,
to, all right,
yeah.
how do what
I
voices, what
or
people,
just like family in general, I feel like. You know how they're always
yeah.
willing to listen? Yeah, yeah, totally. Mhm.
So all right, how do I get the influences on my kids they need to have to get where they need to go? Do I
Mhm.
need to hire somebody? Do I need to get new friends? So I need to make sure that my friends are at the house. This so my kids can see them. Like, what do you need to do to make sure they get where they're supposed to go? And like I said, Nathan, one of my buddies who taught my wife and I NLP, Nathan and Christy did. Um, I have Nathan work with my kid.
Mhm.
One of my funniest things. So one of my buddies is I have a lot of buddies, and one of my NFL buddies was a center and a lineman, and so
Mhm.
he's teaching my oldest. This is 2 3 years ago. He was teaching him line drills and stuff like that because
Mhm.
and and so Zane starts asking him all these questions about exercise and diet and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and Nate kind of looks at him and goes, "You know who I ask whenever I have these questions?" And Zane goes, "No, who?" And he goes, "Your dad." And Zane goes, "What?" And he was like, "How do you think we know each other?" And he was like, "He helps me put all this stuff together." And so that's when Zane started asking me questions about
Yeah,
diet and
that's what I
exercise.
was
But until
gonna say.
then, he wouldn't listen to me.
If you put him in good environments, there will come a day when he will come to you too, you know? Or any child
Well,
that
and that's
you if you put them in
well,
good places with good people.
and I think one of the big things that is missed about being a dad is the number one thing you can do to influence your children in the right ways to go and do something is by example.
Mhm.
If they see you saying one thing and doing another, they're not going to trust you, and they
Yeah.
shouldn't. So, it's funny because like when I was when the first long fast I did,
Mhm.
I was doing like a 7 day fast, and I'm like 2 days into it, and Zane goes, "Hey, Dad, I'm making hamburgers. You want one?" And I was like, "Nah, buddy." I was like, "I'm fasting for a couple days," and he was like, "Tell when?" And it's like Saturday or Sunday, and I was like, "Tell Thursday," and he goes, "Oh, that sounds really hard," and I was like, "Eh." And I turned around to walk back into my room and he goes, "But that makes sense. You do hard things." And I was just like, "Oh shit." I was like, "That's right, buddy." And I went and I closed my door and I was like, "I will die before I eat anything before Thursday because like I just told my son I laid it down and I'm not going to break that.
Mhm.
That's the thing. But that's
You gotta
that's a
show.
lot of it. It's
Yeah, they watch you more than they're gonna listen. I saw
yeah,
I'm watching a lot of stuff about babies, obviously, but this was a good video that I saved. They're saying, you're when they're small, like they're gonna try to imitate you, just like an animal or whatever. So don't sit on your phone like this all day long and look
yes.
like a freaking shrimp, and the baby is gonna maybe start imitating that horrible posture. It was a very good video. I was like, would make perfect sense, right?
Well, one of the things that we learned early on, and Dr. Peterson talks about this a lot, is you cannot tell a young child to clean their room. They have no idea what that means. You
Mhm.
literally have to say, "See that teddy bear? There, yeah, I see the teddy bear. Cool. You see that spot on the shelf? It's about the same size as that teddy bear? Yeah, I do. pick that teddy bear up off the floor and put it in that spot over there in the cabinet
Mhm.
where it goes. Oh, okay, thanks. Bang. You've now cleaned up that teddy bear. Do you see that blanket? Yeah, that blanket should go over there in the hamper. Pick it up and go put it in the hamper. Like you literally can't just be like, go clean your room. They have no context for
Yeah.
what that means. So you literally have to walk them through all of the commands you're trying to get them to do so
Mhm.
that they can actually understand, what does it mean to clean my room? What does it mean to set the table? What does it mean to
Mhm.
XYZ? So, like, that's one of those things that people get mad at their kids. And I'm like, you're the idiot. Like, did you
Yeah.
teach them how to do that thing? Or did you just expect them to magically have conjured up the knowledge of how to do XYZ?
With all these modern strange skills, like they're gonna know how to that they're hungry, they're gonna know that they need to sleep, like that kind of stuff. But yeah, everything else is just stuff we've made up. So
Well, and the other thing about, they're going to know they're hungry. If you feed them sugar and cookies, they will want sugar and cookies. If you
yeah.
never feed them sugar and cookies, they won't know that they're missing
Yeah.
it. And so
I
people are like, but they're so good. I want to give them a treat.
I have some friends that I'm very proud of. You know how they've raised their children. And on occasions, I was telling somebody about one of my friends who has been, and she's actually the one who comforted me to decide I'm not going to have a midwife because I was like, should I have a midwife? And she was like, I didn't. Like, why would I need it? And what are they actually going to tell me? What I'm supposed to eat and what I was like, she's right. What the hell do I need them for? I know the exercises to do. I know, like I listen to my body, blah, blah, blah. Either way, so she breastfeeds. She's just on the second baby, breastfeeds first one still, like because she's, I don't know, she's like approaching 2-ish, I think. And as far as I know, you breastfeed your babies for as long as they can because they're getting good stuff and nutrients and stem cells. So keep doing it. But she used to give, when her first kid was little, she would give her little meat pieces to like sit and suck on. And that was like her favorite thing. So now when she's a little older and start eating some solid food too, she wants meat, meat and rice. That's what she wants. And I was talking to somebody about, oh my God, what a horrible mom. She doesn't let her get anything. So what are you talking about? She doesn't let her eat poison, no. How is that a horrible mom? And I was like, your kid only knows what you taught them. So it's not like this child is sitting there, oh, my mom is so bad and she won't give me something I've never had, you know? Like, it's just if you teach your child that that is actually something great and it's a treat, whatever, like they're gonna know that. And I had another friend, her kid, I babysat him once and I said, okay, so what is he like? We're gonna watch a movie. And I was like, what is he allowed and what is he like? She said he likes tomatoes. And I was like, huh, okay, cool. I was like, tomatoes it is. And they were sitting and watching movies. He's like, can I have a snack? And I was like, yeah, what do you want? He's like, tomatoes. And it was so cute. This is so long ago and I'll never forget.
Well, it's funny because like your kids don't need cookies. Like if you want to make them like we make them, fine. That's I guess. But
Something home.
meat, vegetables, and fruits and berries and like that's all these kids really need. Like they don't need the high processed cereal Cheerios. They don't need the high processed this and that. Like it. The more man messes with something, the more it gets messed up. That's just all you really need to know.
And I made a baby registry. There I had some friends, oh my God, I want to buy you gifts and whatnot. And I said, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I'm a hippie. Like, please don't just go buy me gifts because, the typical stuff, I'm sorry, but it's not coming into my home. There will be no plastic toys. I already bought all the clothes. It's all organic cotton and linen. There's nothing else.
Mhm.
Nothing. And a lot of these baby brands, they sneak in like 2% polyester, but a lot of brands are telling everybody to go shop. Just check the fabric instructions because
Mhm.
most of them have 100% available options of everything. You just have to do a little bit of work and research. And I'm not going to have no freaking pacifiers. I did one ultrasound just to check, and they give you like a goodie bag when you come to when you're done, and
Mhm.
look in the goodie bag, they're pacifiers and formula. And I said, thank you so much, but you guys can keep that. I was like,
Well, most of the formula in this country is pretty toxic. And yeah, you got to, if your milk doesn't come in, and this is another thing, like, because women are like, well, my milk didn't come in. I'm like, well, what was your nutrient and toxin level beforehand? Because, if you clean yourself up, your breast should be making milk.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, if they're not, there's a lot of different ways of getting high quality stuff in. The vast majority of the Similac and the Enfamil and that
I,
type of stuff have
yeah.
massive amounts of toxins in them.
But we donate Acemannan to orphans around the world, and they have been talking about they right now you can't get a hold of it, but they're talking about trying to sell it as like a breast milk replacement because Acemannan is a almost a replicant of breast milk. So I have a bag here because they gave us it when we went to see the kids. I was like, well, I'm probably not gonna need it, but worst case scenario, I got one here, and that's just
Yeah.
pure Acemannan for baby, basically the same as a person's breast milk. But then I watched a lot of videos and courses on free birthing now, and as far as I understand, when the baby comes out, the first 2 hours you want to breastfeed because it's kind of setting, helping this whole thing start working. Then of course there could be nutrient deficiencies and issues going on anyway. But as far as all these different things I've read now, it sounds like if they take the baby away, you're at the hospital, they take the baby away and you're not doing that, you're kind of starting to mess up this whole process a little bit.
Well, the other problem is that when they take that baby away at the hospital, they are 99% of the time going to vaccinate it, even if you ask not to. And so let's run through that real quick, just so people understand. The two shots they're going to give them is vitamin K,
Hmm.
which they don't need because it's in breast milk, and you're not going to cut the baby. Now, if you're going to have immediate surgery, that's a different conversation. But if you're not going to have surgery, you don't need the K. But the other one they give is Hep B. Now, here's the funny thing: Hep B is a sexually transmitted disease. So
Yep.
I don't know how much the hospital plans on your baby having sex, but apparently they really think your baby's going to have lots of sex because it's the first thing they do. And they're
Yep.
like, well, what if the mother can be tested for that and probably is 90 times before she comes in to give birth. And as soon as she reels in, you can test the mom. If the mom's positive, then you have at least a reason to. But the vast majority of mothers now don't have Hep B, but they're still giving this wildly toxic injection on the chance that maybe it will. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I knew this already, but I was like, it's just so ridiculous. And
Well,
I'm
and they carry them around in their pockets so
Yep.
that you can't see. They just whip out, ha ha, I got him, right? And you're like, why are you so sneaky about this stuff?
And then also the umbilical cord. Uh, Another thing with the K, I think you're supposed to let the cord sit until all the nutrients has actually reached the baby, and I cut it off. And I know they cut it off because they get more exosomes, and then they can sell it to rich people. Uh, so that's one reason they want to get a hold of it. But just let the baby get its nutrients. So I've probably decided to do like I'm not gonna do the whole thing where I take the whole placenta home with me for a week. I don't think I want to do that, but I'm definitely gonna let it sit until it's done its job.
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's people who are talking about, taking the placenta, encapsulating it, and taking it as a supplement. Which, if you want to do that, I don't see a problem with it. But at least you could do is just be like, let's just not cut the cord for 5 minutes. Like, give me an extra 5 minutes with my
They
baby.
usually let it sit for a few hours so it really empties and gives all of that stuff
Well,
because
as
supposed
soon as it's
to.
clear,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as the umbilical is clear and stops moving, you're usually good. And like you said, if you're doing skin to skin and you're doing, breastfeeding for that first little bit to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
just lay there. Like, it's like, and if you've never had a baby, you're going to be nasty. Like, this is not a clean thing. You're going to be nasty regardless. So just let it, you'll be fine. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Just let it sit there. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did this whole. I had a long drive a little bit ago, so I did a 5 hour free birthing class, and basically this lady. So I think I don't know if she was a midwife or a nurse before, but she worked in the system. She might still have been a midwife, but she was saying too, don't trust the midwives because they're all certified and follow the same rules, basically. But
Hmm.
she was telling stories about things she saw, and that's when she started teaching people free birthing. Like she literally went from getting paid to help people give birth to telling people that don't get any help. Like it was like that. So she's telling all these stories. I'm sitting in the car crying. Like, I know what they do, but it was so, because she's explaining details of story after story after story, and it's insane what they do. And she say a
Yeah.
lot of times there, you come to the hospital, you're like, I kind of want to do, I'm not really about, I don't want any vaccines. I kind of want to do this. And when the baby comes out, I really want to hold the baby for a while, before you guys do anything. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's cool. And then in the heat of the moment, baby's out, mom is fucking, done. They're like, oh, we got to take the baby now. And then they're like, and then so they're kind of like
Yeah.
very sneaky, right?
Yeah, the person you first talk to promises you all the stuff, and then the people,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, I don't know who told you that, but I'm the charge nurse, and so we have to take
Right.
every baby to the nursery." And you're just like,
Yeah.
"Arrest me." Like, "No,
Yeah.
we're not doing this."
No.
So,
Mm.
and so that's one of the reasons I think a lot of people are moving towards a doing these things at home or in a birthing center or something like that, but just to get away from the hospitals and all
Yeah.
their lies, all their trash, which is unfortunate. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. The amount of it's amazing that that God gave us this way of actually giving birth outside of a C-section, because in American hospitals, like I think it's like 60-70% of all births now are done through C-section, because whatever reason they could like. But here's the other side. They're like, oh, it was too painful, it was too hard. She was on her back the whole time. That's not how
Yep.
you give birth.
No. And then it's like every animal in this world, every living being in this world give birth. Why are we the only one who can't do it? It's just stupidity. And yes, the
Well,
laying down, because I in my whole life, every movie I've ever seen, the woman always lays down and give birth. And that's all you pretty much know, right? And I mean, I also heard, you know, I don't blame her, but I've heard some from my mom. She was telling me about when she gave birth to me, and I was the first one. So yeah, she did a lot of bad things. And then with my sister, she didn't do any of the things. But I guess she didn't know, and then they scare you. So I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense why I had a lot of problems when I in my life, because oh god, just keep losing him. Oh, I don't know what's going on.
maybe the Starlink isn't as clean as we hoped it would be.
I don't know. It's just started. Last live was also a little funny. Before that, I've never had any issues. So I don't know. Who knows what they're doing in the sky, though? I think that might be the question because it's a satellite. Yesterday, I saw my first, this is completely unrelated. I saw my first dragon alien thing for real because there's a lot of,
Ah,
but I've only seen videos. I've seen videos from Joel, I've seen videos from other, but yesterday I saw it for real with my own eyes and recorded it with my phone. And I don't know what those, they almost look like dragony type of things. And some people are like, it's a plastic bag. No, it was glowing in the dark. It was not a freaking plastic,
yeah.
you know? So yeah, I did see that. It was pretty cool. Still too far away to like really figure out what it is. But you
Well,
see
there's
how it's changing in shape.
Well, and there's gonna be, and there's gonna be more and more of those over the next couple of years. I think we're gonna see.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be that's a very interesting thing. But um, yeah, it's if we can keep all the if we can keep all the women kind of moving back in a healthy direction, I think that's gonna help more than anything else we do.
Yeah. And I want to do, so I'm going to say, so right when I got pregnant, it just kind of, I started documenting everything. So for 4.5 months, I've been documenting everything every week. And every time I talk to somebody, like first thing, obviously I talked to my sister and she was like, oh, I was feeling this and this and this when I was pregnant. I was like, and then I started writing down nausea. Why do people get that? Cravings. Why do people get that? Tired. Why do people get that? And I just started going down the rabbit holes and I was like, oh my God, I need to release like a little program after I give birth, obviously. So I document
Mhm.
every week for the whole pregnancy. How do I feel? What do I hear from people? Why am I not experiencing that? Why are they experiencing that? And then that's when it just came to me one day. Oh my God, I need to make a documentary. So I call it the Sovereign Mom Project. And right now, I want to start shooting in probably less than a month. So we're just working on investors and stuff right now. But I have
Mhm.
an amazing movie team who does Netflix movies and stuff. They're gonna do everything, and the plan is to basically talk about the whole pregnancy, all the, myths and lies. We're going to have a bunch of people being interviewed, including, women that actually have several children already and have done it
Hmm.
by themselves. Whereas I actually had one I was talking to that had it in the hospital first, and then after that have had all the kids outside of it. And just really try to explain everything and hoping we can get it into Netflix somehow.
Yes. It'd be really cool to get some of this information out to the public in a Netflix documentary type of thing of,
Yeah.
the other options you have that,
Mm.
at least kind of give information in a non-biased way.
Yeah. And I mean, even I haven't actually looked at that, but maybe we should find a doctor to come and interview, Like, I was thinking about that free birthing lady I found, but so apparently, I mean, she has great information, but apparently people don't, I think she's a bitch. As people
Ah,
hating, I found an entire hate page on her, and I was like, you know what? Maybe she is a bitch, but her information is still great, though. I just care about the information she's sharing. And
well, it's kind of funny because like if I always tell people, if you're working with a surgeon and you're going to be asleep while the surgeon does their thing,
uh huh.
probably doesn't have to be a nice guy. You probably don't have to like that person very much. But if you're going to work with somebody on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
you probably need to make sure you like that person. So a doula or a midwife that is
Mm-hmm.
a horrible person is going to
Yeah.
be really hard to work with.
Yeah. I'm still deciding. I might, because I have a friend whose sister is a doula, so I said maybe I'll have a talk with her. I don't know her, but I mean, I would maybe have a doula. I don't necessarily feel like I need one. I feel
Mhm.
confident to just do it by myself anyway. But we'll see. If I find somebody I like, maybe why not?
Well, it's always easier to go through to someone who's done these things multiple times. So,
Yeah.
that would be beneficial. But I don't think you need one. I don't think you need one. I think like a normal person who hasn't gone through the diet and the education and the mental work
Yeah.
and the stuff that you've done through doesn't understand the exercises. I mean, I see 28-year-old women every day who
Mm-hmm.
pee on themselves a little bit when they laugh because they didn't understand pelvic floor
Yeah.
strengthening
Mm-hmm.
for their pregnancy.
Oh yeah, I was telling you that, right? Because I do exercises and I have been for a while already. But then I had one day where I sneezed so hard and I was like, oh, it felt like I was gonna pee myself. I was like, shit. So I started doing the exercises twice a day, and I was like, wow, that was interesting. I didn't actually do it, but I was like very close. So I was like, oh, maybe we need to increase.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit more. Keep those things moving. So
Yeah, but I mean, it's not that, and the internet can be the good guy and the bad guy, but there's definitely a lot of great information if you just know how to research and not just Google something, like that, and like really try to do proper research. And I started doing lists of people talking about natural birth. And then I started going through all the websites. That's how I found that lady. Because I was like, went through maybe 20 different people. Okay, they have some good information. These people have some good information. This, and all of them are selling something. This lady has an entire page of free videos that I watched
mhm.
first. And I was like, wow, I'm considering buying her whole thing now because I got so much information only through that. And I think that's how you get it. You need to bring enough value to show that you actually know what the hell you're doing so that people understand. Because I would be pissed off if I bought something and then there's really nothing in there that I didn't even know or that I already knew.
Right.
I know, but and she was
Well,
the only one who shared so much details about stuff.
one of the things that one of the things that I see that's in this vein, and I see this all the time, is there's so much information online, and so much of it's trash,
Hmm.
and some of these influencers are I don't know where they're getting their information, but I think what's getting harder and harder to do is find people that know what they're talking about that you can trust and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
a lot of times I have people bring me information and they're like, here's what I've read. My doctor says this person says this. They're like, I'm confused. I don't know where to go. And so that I see that all the time. I think that we're getting to a point now where there's too much information for a lot of people to go out and kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's where walking through it with somebody who's done this a lot is beneficial.
Hmm.
Um, but it's funny because people bring me stuff all the time and they'll send me stuff. Hey, this influencer said collagen's no good, or hey, this influencer said this or that, and
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, well, here's how that works in the body.
Uh-huh.
So here's what I would recommend. And it's so funny because people are like, I'm thinking about adding NAD in. I'm going to spend the money and get NAD, and I'm like, why? Look, like
Why?
NAD is great. It's part of the Krebs cycle. Yes, it helps produce ATP. Yeah, it's a good thing. But if your testosterone and your D3 and your gut's not where it's supposed to be, start there. Like,
Yeah.
don't go buy NAD because you're 17 steps into a process and you didn't get step one done right. So
Yeah.
don't buy the supplement for step 17 when you haven't done step one or two yet.
Exactly. Actually had a conversation like that yesterday because we're talking back and forth about everything, and they're like, "Yeah, I've been told that B12 injections are great." And I said, "Okay, well, not saying they couldn't be." I said, "But yeah, I think I need to do that." I said, "Why do you need to do that? What makes you think you need to do that?" And again, I'm not saying that couldn't be beneficial, but maybe we should go into, just because somebody said that this kind of thing was good doesn't mean that that's what you need.
Well, and so here's the thing on that. So our B12 really important? It is super important. You should definitely have high levels of B12. However, if you're injecting cyanocobalamin, that is not the type of B12 you want. And a lot of people will do great with methylcobalamin. However, if you have COMT issues, genetic DNA, COMT issues, you need hydroxyl or adreno cobalamin instead. And so, finding out, okay, what do you need? Again, there's not a diet for everyone, for
Mm.
people. There's a diet for a person. And so when you really start going into it, and the amount of people who are like really into health who haven't had their DNA done before, I'm like, how have you gotten this far without having a DNA test, a hormone test, a
Mhm.
sleep study? Like, how are you where you are without having the simple test done? And people who are worried about heart attacks and strokes who haven't had a CT angiogram and haven't had an echocardiogram, I'm like, what, where are, like, these are the best gold standard, most effective and most uh, giant information hypercritical tests to do. Why
Mhm.
have you not done them? And people go, well, I guess I'll ask my primary care, or I guess I'll
Uh,
go ahead and go back and ask my cardiologist. And I'm like, don't.
yeah.
If they haven't offered them, why are they holding them out on you? Do they really know how they do they really
Or
know how to read them?
people that go to their regular doctor for hormone panel and then they come back. When I used to do a lot of one-on-one coaching, so many times, and the women come back and they're like, yeah, so and then they checked like one on their paperwork, they have like one hormone, maybe it was either testosterone or progesterone. Yeah, we only check the progesterone right now. And I said, okay, cool, like where is everything else on your blood panel? They just did
Yeah.
one test for progesterone. Like, we can't really evaluate. As I said, I'm not a doctor, but it's like, on one single thing in your entire body, we can't really decide what's going on with you. You know?
Well, and so on the hormone thing, this is not really hard. I know they don't teach hormones at all in med school, and it is what it is. But here's the thing for women's hormones: your all the lab values are wrong. Everything about women's hormones are wrong.
Yes.
So the testosterone for a normal woman, you want between 80 and 250. Free testosterone, you're looking between somewhere between 6 and 12,
Versus
somewhere in there.
mine has been 20.
What?
Mine has been 20 for the last few years, and now it's 62. And I
Yeah.
have never had any hormone issues. So I think that's very individual.
So it's going to be. But so when you get them up that high, what ends up happening is that the testosterone converts into estrogen. And then
Mhm.
the estrogen now covers all the hot flashes, night sweats, and vaginal dryness. And so you don't have to give estrogen if you have enough testosterone. But the
Mhm.
other side of that is that progesterone is great for when we're trying to talk about having a baby.
Mhm.
It's not nearly as needed afterwards because the job of progesterone is to promote gestation, hence the name. It
Mhm.
increases blood flow to the uterus, so we get more oxygen to tissue, and then we get that nice sloughing off that menstrual cycle afterwards. So
Mhm.
if you're in perimenopause, or if you stopped having a cycle, if you start giving yourself progesterone, or a doctor gives you progesterone, it will oftentimes cause breakthrough bleeding, or it'll cause you to have a full-blown cycle again.
Mhm.
So you don't need that much. There's some dietary things you can do to get some like natural sources of progesterone and to keep the uterus really healthy,
Mhm.
but those are things that you don't necessarily need outside of having a baby. Women who are trying to have a baby, hormones versus women who are not, totally different conversation.
Mhm.
But that's one of those things that we start to see on a lot of these people, is that they're not getting the numbers that they need, and they're not getting them pulled the way they need to. In fact, if you look at, for instance, just as an aside, there's a lot of women, tens of thousands of women who die from urinary tract infections, older women, that if they would just be on hormone therapy, they wouldn't have a lot of these UTIs, because the hormones that your body has controls the bacterial flora in the vaginal vault. And so you can avoid these things if your hormones are kept where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, everything is connected somehow. Yeah. And then I mean, I still do. I've always done my blood work a lot, pretty often. And one thing that I remember when I was young, my mom would always tell me, "Oh, we have things in the family. You're gonna need to take B12 always for the rest of your life." I was always told, and you're probably gonna have liver issues and breast cancer everywhere. And you're gonna be blind.
Yes.
Yeah. And then funny enough, I don't need any B12 supplementation whatsoever because my level is perfect with
Well,
the
with the
lifestyle
diet,
I have and everything.
well, with the diet you're eating,
Yeah,
you're getting all your nutrients in.
yeah, exactly. So it's obviously I live different than my family. Then I probably live in a place where it's actually harder to get real food, but I have figured it out, and I think it's really worth for people to take a little extra time to do the research and not just go to the closest store, the ever store you know about because it's convenient. Because
Yes.
it's buying food from a farm is super convenient too. You just need to find it the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
and a lot of
you
times it's like
don't have to
if
buy
you get
anything
five
for
or
6 months. It's very
well,
convenient.
if you can also get 4 or 5 people together to, all right, hey,
Mhm.
this 2 weeks I'm gonna go, next 2 weeks you guys go, or whatever it
Yeah,
is. And we'll all get, what we need to eat, and we'll just share it. And
sure.
so,
It's cheaper
and
too. Mhm.
that's usually the best way. So
Yeah, just need real food. But yeah, I don't know if I just did my blood panel like a few weeks ago, and I know everything was good. So no, I
very
feel
cool.
good. I'm fine till the pregnancy now.
Yes. Well, I gotta jet
Last
out of here.
last question for you. So
Yeah.
I know when you're pregnant, you're not supposed to do any crazy detoxing, right? So what do you suggest if you are pregnant and you just want to make sure, or you're not sure, do I have any parasites or do I have anything going on? What do you think that you can do while you're pregnant?
So a lot of times what we'll end up doing is we'll do parasitic cleanses, but we'll do them slower.
Hmm.
So you don't have that detox reaction. And then we'll do extra kidney castor packing, we'll do liver castor
Yeah.
packing, things like that to help
Hmm.
help speed the detox along.
Hmm.
But instead of doing like hey, it'll take us 3.5 weeks to fully clear your body out, it's like it's gonna take us 2.5 months,
Yeah.
because we're gonna constantly be doing this in a slow pattern. We're gonna give you the HCl you need, we're gonna give you all the methyl, all the different nutrients you need, while we're killing these parasites, so that your
Hmm.
body kind of deals with the waste as it deals with the nutrients. And
Hmm.
that's fine. You can definitely do that. The problem that we don't want to do is overburden your detox organs and give you a detox reaction while you're pregnant.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that you can't do, you can detox pretty much anything besides heavy metals. Do not start breaking up heavy metals, letting heavy metals float around your body while you're pregnant.
Mhm.
I would definitely never do a heavy metal detox while you're pregnant.
Cool. Yeah, I just been doing some castor packs. I said
You're good.
luckily I did a whole test right before I got pregnant. I didn't know, obviously. I did a whole test checking, heavy metals and parasites and toxins, everything, and I was clear. So, which also obviously when I found out, I felt very good knowing that I had just done that.
Well, and that's what I said. Like for you, like you're a little different than the average person, because you're doing things on a regular basis for maintenance that helps keep parasites at a minimum. So
Yeah,
you were way ahead of the game.
which is what I want to help teach people, that if you just maintain and do things, I said, I don't care how healthy you are. Detoxing, you just need to do. You should just do it. Just do it every now and then on a regular basis and make sure you are always clean. So whenever something unexpected happens, like you get pregnant or whatever it is, you know you're never going to be really bad.
Yes, exactly.
Sweet. Yes, you need to go. So I will put links in the caption for where you can find him. And he has a new landing page that I have helped him with, which I'm definitely going to put in there. So you guys, please go check it out and download his new free guide about men's hormones. So that would be men. Women, you can also download and give it to your boyfriends.
Yes.
Even though the women
Awesome.
can because, but we'll work on a ladies thing later on. So I'm going to wish you a very good night and thank you so much. And we'll do some other follow-up thing later on, maybe.
Yes. I look forward to it. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Good talking to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. We've been almost on for 2 hours. Cool beans. I'm going to actually eat because I'm very hungry now. And I hope you guys have a very good Saturday night. And do check out. So I made a website for the Mom Project. Hello? Hello? Here, thesovereignmom.com. It goes like this, sovereignmom.com. You can sign up for emails. So we are working on a documentary. It's also going to be just education and information and all kinds of stuff that I'm going to release before the documentary as well. I got everything set up, all the social media. You can download the film deck if you guys are interested in actually knowing a little bit more about the project. I also did a video where I am talking about it. You guys can check it out. If somebody's interested in sponsoring or being an investor of some sort, you can reach out about that. And then obviously some information about Acemannan, which have been a huge help for me to become pregnant, even though it wasn't like on purpose. It wasn't like I was trying. Another thing, I just recently released my trust setup guide. If you guys don't know what a private trust is, it's something that you can set up to protect yourself, your family, and your assets. So basically, just to make a long story short, you can have a trust and you can put your assets into the trust, such as your house, your car, your bank accounts, your crypto, your expensive art, anything of value, you can add in the trust and protect yourself with it. So go check that out. And now I'm going to tap out and say goodnight.